Welcome to video number 4 of the Scenic Rim Crisis Ready program, brought to you by Scenic Rim Regional Council. This video will focus specifically on your crisis response. If you haven't already, then please make sure that you download the Crisis Ready app from the Google Play or App Store. Once you've downloaded the app, then it will ask you to enter a code. Your code will be RISK Scenic Rim, all one word. And once you've entered that, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, it will ask you to register. And you can enter in your information and start your crisis ready journey. Now, this app has been specifically designed for the tourism industry to support you through a crisis response. The app is specific to the Scenic Rim, but don't worry, it's only you who will see all the information that you upload into the app. So please make the most of it to take the stress out of your crisis response. Thank you for joining us through this process. It's really important that we consider our crisis management here in Queensland, because we know from historical interactions and from what we're seeing into the future that it's no longer a question of if a crisis occurs, but when the next crisis will occur. So in this particular session, we're going to be looking at our go packs and how we respond effectively to a crisis. Previous videos have helped us to analyse, identify and assess our risks. We've looked at our crisis response team and who's involved, the roles and responsibilities that they have, and now we're about crisis response. So in the first few hours of a crisis, the first thing that you need to do is assess the situation. From there, you can determine what your emergency response will be, communicate both internally and externally, reevaluate the situation to identify where you're at and how you performed during that period, and then reassess and continue your crisis response or move towards your recovery, which you'll hear about in the next video. Now, in that initial period, that assessment period, your aim will be to reduce the impact as much as possible, but at the same time ensuring that no one else is exposed to unnecessary risks during your response. Depending on how quickly you respond, there is the opportunity to reduce the impact and maintain the crisis or incident into an incident situation and lower the impact. If you leave it unchecked, it may evolve and escalate into an emergency situation, a crisis situation, or a disaster situation. Sometimes that may be out of your control, for example, with extreme weather events. However, other internal crises may be within your control to maintain and minimize the damage and the incident and the impact. So, then comes our emergency response. That emergency response is about evacuating your visitors where possible or where needed, keeping your team members informed of the situation. During that time, it can be quite confronting and quite challenging. So where possible, try and stay calm and communicate effectively wherever possible. Be prepared to respond to the media, because we know that the media loves a bad news tourism story. So where possible, control the narrative by responding directly to the media. And in your template, you'll find that there are a number of starting points to get you prepared to do that. Looking towards midterm actions, you're going to start to think about your forward bookings. Do you need to cancel, or can you reallocate your guests to a different day? Keep your RTO and Scenic Rim Regional Council and the LTO up to date with what's going on in the region. That ensures that you've got consistent messaging internally and externally, and also means that they can advocate on your behalf should it be required. Keep your customers up to date, whether it's through Facebook or direct messaging or phone calls, to enable them to understand what the situation is and what impact it will have on their bookings. Make sure you're keeping your narrative open with the media so that you control the messaging about your property. If it's been a significant impact on your business or an emergency or crisis event, then you'll need to start considering your future cash flow, how you manage your budget moving forward, and what marketing activities you may need to alter or edit. For example, if you've got a Facebook ad running, you may need to pull it down or reassess what that ad is saying. Now, continuing on from what we started in the previous video with allocating roles and responsibilities, this then feeds into your response action plan. In your app, the middle button is where that sits, and you can allocate yourself the actions that you're going to do, and your team members can allocate the actions that they're responsible for during that response. Now, by doing that, when you hit the Start Crisis button, it means that those actions that you are specifically designated to take care of will come up and will be guided through. So make sure that you're completing that section, allocating the roles and responsibilities, and following that through to the response plan so that you can take the stress and the concern and the thought out of your response. And you can easily be guided through. You should be ready to evacuate and return, and know and understand when is the best time to evacuate your property. Now, by Queensland law, you will need to have an evacuation plan ready. But does that consider what will happen if a road in or out of your property is cut off? Make sure that you're considering alternative routes. And if you're reliant on a single road in and single road out of your business, then consider what your evacuation plan will be, or where a safe place may be to evacuate your guests to if they're unable to get out of your property. Your evacuation plan saves lives. Making sure that it's well practiced and that you run regular drills will assist your staff in knowing and understanding what the warning signs are and how to respond effectively and get your visitors off property as efficiently as they possibly can. Now, you won't be leaving your property empty-handed. In terms of evacuation, you should be taking a go pack with you. Your go pack is a bag or a box of equipment and documents that will help your response and enable you to work off-site wherever that's viable. Now, on page 11 of your business continuity template, you'll see that there's some ideas of what you may wish to include in your go pack. Your go pack will be specific to your business. And once you're done here with this video, you'll need to go away and physically pack that box or bag and inform your staff of where it's located for ease of access. So things that you might consider including: a printout of the continuity plan that you've been developing, that template that you've been working through this course of videos, which will have all the relevant information that you need for your response and recovery. A list of your employees and their next of kin printed out so that you can contact them. What happens if you can't find a staff member? You'll need to get in touch with their next of kin. So try and ensure wherever possible that that's up to date and sits as a hard copy within that go pack. A list of your current and expected clients or visitors with their contact numbers so that you can get in touch with them should you be required to. Key suppliers you might want to consider if you've got any food and beverage requirements or any physical supplies that are coming into your business on a regular basis. Include those supplier details and your policy numbers with them, or your account numbers with them, so that you can get in touch and pause any deliveries that you may need to. Other considerations will be for your utility company, your insurance, and your finance and banking information. Again, making sure that you include any policy numbers or contact numbers in that as well, so that you've got a real ease of access during the crisis. You should also include a first aid register and an event log with a few printed copies of these so multiple staff members can have access in one go. Once the crisis has completed, or once you're in a position where you can consolidate, you can then pull all of those logs together and have one singular copy. But that might not be viable at the time, so making sure that you've got multiple printouts will assist in an ease of response. In terms of equipment, again, that will be really specific to your business. If you're using laptops, then it's really easy to grab your laptop and take it out with you. But what are the roles of your staff in taking those with you? Make sure that they're aware of what they need to do. If you're using hard desktop computers, then you may wish to consider USB memory sticks or flash drive if everything isn't stored on the clouds. Think about the keys to your properties, particularly for accommodation providers, making sure that you've got all spare keys that you need. Think about communication during that downtime. Radios are really useful to be able to communicate with one another. And also think of a radio for getting your information as well. Stationery can be really useful, pens, paper clips, and anything else that you utilize on a regular basis. Make sure that they're dropped in there. In terms of your mobile phones, most people will have one with them, but think about charging that in a time of crisis. It may be that electricity is cut, so make sure that you've got a powered up power bank in that Go kit, or solar chargers that you'll be able to access during that time. We also advise that you include an extra SIM card from a different telco than you're with. Say, for example, if you're with Optus and the Optus tower goes out, have a spare Telstra SIM card with some credit available in your Go pack so you can swap SIMs if that telco isn't down. Also consider how you're going to record your information. So it may be a disposable camera or an extra old spare phone that can take photos of the crisis as it evolves. You may also have really specific things in your business. It could be a pet that you've got within your business, so you may wish to consider pet food and pet supplies. It may be that you have some really unique artifacts that you may need to take with you. Just make sure that you know and understand how to get all of that and where it's going to be located. Once you've decided and you've packed your Go kit, make sure that you consider carefully where your Go kit's located. It may be, if you're a large property or a large experience, that you may need multiple Go packs so that staff on different ends of the building or property can access those in a time of crisis. If you're in an office like I am, then you'll consider your exit strategy. So for our office, the front desk, whilst that would normally be a great location for a Go pack, would be terrible for us. It's not in the direct line of evacuation. So if there was no one sitting at front desk at the time, then nobody would be able to grab that Go pack. So instead, it's located in the main area of our office on the direct route to the evacuation staircase. That means that about 20 staff will have to walk past it before they evacuate, meaning that chances are it will get picked up and brought with us. You'll find on your app that there's also information about your Go pack and some prompts about what you may wish to include. If you scroll down to the bottom of that area, it also enables you to type in where that Go pack is located, just as a reminder in your time of crisis. Communication is a critical step, and if you've listened to the previous videos, you'll know that it's a regular aspect that comes up through the crisis management program. Two-way internal and external communication is vital between decision makers and all stakeholders so that they're informed about what is going on. They know and understand how information needs to be passed to guests or to other stakeholders, and the expertise is shared. It may be that some of your team members have a different way of thinking about things. So making sure that their expertise is fed into the conversation is really important. Determining the hierarchy of who is going to communicate with whom is a great way of thinking about your two-way communication. As a manager or CEO, it may be you who declares that there is an emergency situation. So who do you talk to next? How do they then disseminate that information with other critical stakeholders? How is the information getting from your staff and your team members down to your guests or visitors? It shouldn't be you that has to deal with all of this, but identifying a clear hierarchy will support you with an effective crisis response. For those of you in a smaller organisation, again, it may be the consideration of those external support people who we've already identified, our accountants, our PR team. How are we going to include those into that hierarchy? So on pages 12 to 13 of your continuity plan template, you're going to see your contact list. Now that gives you the opportunity to include your internal stakeholders who are critical to your response, but also consider external stakeholders who you may need to be in contact with post-crisis and who aren't necessarily involved in your organisation. Pages 12 and 13 have some pre-filled information in there for you. So that's Scenic Rim Regional Council's information, the Queensland Tourism Industry Council, and Tourism and Events Queensland. But there'll also be specific external stakeholders to your organisation that you may need to get in contact with. It could be your food and beverage suppliers, third-party booking sites, or perhaps even community groups who have a close association with your organisation. Whoever it may be, make sure that you're recording their information in your template so that you have easy access to it in the event of a crisis. You'll see that the table is quite simple and easy to utilise. Once you've identified all those key stakeholders, you can also include them in your app. Again, those pre-filled stakeholders are already in there for you for your assistance. But then think of the additional stakeholders that you want. If they're already in your phone, you can just import them directly from your phone. If they're not, then you can type them in. Consider including any policy or supplier numbers that are relevant to those stakeholders as you input them into your key contacts section. Again, that will mean that you've got easy access to it during a crisis event, and you won't have to go searching through a ton of emails to find that information that you require. The app works both online and offline. So if the internet is cut and you need to talk to these stakeholders, then you'll have all the information at the tip of your fingers. Then comes evaluation. How are you recording the actions of your event? Again, in your template, you'll find that there is a real simplistic template for evaluating your response and recording your response. Make sure that you're including dates and times of everything that's happening because your insurers will require this as you're making a claim. As I mentioned in the Go Pack, having multiple printouts of this template is really handy for your other staff. That means that they can record their findings as you record yours. You'll also find that there's an image log in your app as well. Now that image log enables you to take pictures and record what's going on. It stores all of your images in one clear place and enables you to enter a description. Again, recording location, date, and time is really important to help your insurance company make an informed decision. By this point, it's time to reassess. Is everything going well? Have all key tasks been completed? Get feedback from your team members on any outstanding items that haven't been completed or how they're feeling that the response has gone. Has it escalated? Do you need to go back to the beginning of that cycle and reassess the situation and look at new actions to take to minimize some of the risks? Or has your initial intervention worked and now the crisis situation is over, you need to work on your recovery aspects? So from here, make sure that you're taking advantage of the exercises that we've been working through and that you fill in all that information on your app. If you do have any questions, then feel free to reach out at any stage. I'm more than happy to assist you and work through any of the challenges that you're facing. Thank you.